Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Piwanka, and I'm the Associate Director for Assessment here at Texas A&M University. And today I'm going to be going over our core assessment procedures for the fall 2020 semester. Recognizing these are unusual times, I hope that you will understand that we are being as flexible and as accommodating as we possibly can be. However, we are not able to not participate in this process. So, your understanding and flexibility throughout the semester, again, with this process, is greatly appreciated. To give everyone a little bit of a recap, the core assessment process, as well as the core recertification process, has evolved a little bit over the last couple of years. It was announced back in November of 2019 that we would be transitioning to a 2-year process, whereby in the first year of your recertification cycle, the course would be responsible for submitting evidence of student learning for the specific learning objectives that have been defined for that particular academic year. Year 2 in the process is when the course will go through the recertification process that is defined by the Core Curriculum Council using CARS. This is where specific questions are posed and responses regarding how the student learning objectives are introduced in the context of the course, how they're assessed in the context of the course, are responded to, and this is the information the Core Curriculum Council will review for recertification processes. To facilitate this 2-year cycle, the core courses have been divided into 4 different cohorts. As you can see on the table in front of you, Cohort A participated in the initial version of this in spring 2020, and Cohort B will be the cohort going through during the 2020-2021 academic year. Instructors of record in Cohort B received an email communication on August 18th alerting them of this fact, as well as providing the rubrics and the list of courses that are included in Cohort B. These slides were also included in the August 18th email, and you will notice that both Cohort A and B include hyperlinks. These hyperlinks take you to the list of courses in those cohorts respectively. And additionally, those lists are available at assessment.tamu.edu/core. Please note that Cohort B spans both the fall and spring semester, so instructors of courses in Cohort B will be expected to submit artifacts for all of their sections representing all of their students for both of those semesters. This next table shows the long-term plan for the cohorts and core objectives that will be the focus of each academic year. You'll notice that for the 2021 academic year, Cohort B will be focused on critical thinking and social responsibility. All of the foundational component areas are responsible for addressing critical thinking in their course. The courses specifically in Cohort B will be submitting evidence of student work demonstrating critical thinking skills. The same can be said for social responsibility, though this only affects a small subset of the foundational component areas. Language, philosophy, and culture, creative arts, American history, government and political science, and social and behavioral sciences are all expected to address social responsibility in the context of their course. However, it is only the courses in Cohort B that will need to submit evidence of student work demonstrating social responsibility for the purposes of assessment during this academic year. Now that you are all caught up on process and know exactly which courses are going to be participating during this academic year, I'd like to take a few moments to go over some of the resources that are available to you, as well as the specific submission instructions that will need to be followed during the fall 2020 semester. First of all, I'm very excited to announce that Dr. Maria Baez has joined the Office of Institutional Effectiveness and Evaluation as our new Assistant Director for Undergraduate Education Assessment. Dr. Baez will be working very closely with Core Curriculum Assessment, including facilitating the submission process, facilitating scoring, as well as reporting of outcomes. Dr. Baez has a wealth of experience working with student learning outcome assessment as well as accreditation requirements and expectations. You will be hearing from Dr. Baez later this semester, and she will help ensure you have the information you need to submit the student work needed for assessment. As previously mentioned, courses in Cohort B will be responsible for submitting evidence of student learning related to critical thinking and social responsibility. The rubrics are included in the slide links and the email that was distributed on August 18th, as well as available at assessment.tamu.edu/core. The core learning objectives are defined by the state of Texas. Critical thinking is meant to include creative thinking, innovation, inquiry and analysis, evaluation, and synthesis of information. You will notice that the rubrics we have designed are aligned with this objective, and therefore it is incredibly important that you review the rubric and choose an artifact from your course that addresses all of the criteria. During our pilot, which operated from academic year 2014-15 through academic year 18-19, position was the criteria that most frequently was excluded from artifact samples. It is very important that all of the criteria that are on the rubric are addressed by the artifact in order to best demonstrate our institution's skills relative to the learning objectives. Social responsibility is meant to include intercultural competence, knowledge of civic responsibility, and the ability to gauge effectively in regional, national, and global communities. During the same pilot study, it was discovered that topic for social responsibility related artifacts truly does matter. In selecting an artifact to align to the social responsibility objective, make sure that the content addressed in that artifact aligns with the learning objective as it's defined above by the state. Regardless of the learning objective being measured, if the artifact that is submitted as evidence of critical thinking, social responsibility, any learning objective, does not align with the rubric that's being used to assess those skills, it will be impossible to collect a valid measure of student ability, meaning that our assessment data will not be able to be used for continuous improvement in a valid way. One of the shortcomings of the previously mentioned pilot has to do with the alignment of the artifacts to the rubrics that were used. The artifacts were designed with different rubrics in mind, and when we transitioned rubrics for the sake of alignment to the state definition, the misalignment between the original artifacts and the new rubrics was very clear. Our general target is to achieve about a 4.0 out of an 8 on performance on any of the rubrics used for core curriculum. You'll see for critical thinking, we were relatively close, all things considered, especially since the rubrics were a bit different. However, social responsibility is the area where there's the most room for growth. As previously mentioned, the topic is incredibly important, and that's something that we noticed during the pilot when it came to some of these lower scores, that many of the criteria on the rubric aligned with the definition provided to us by the state were not present in the artifact. This led to conversation amongst faculty for continuous improvement efforts related to how we share our resources, how we discuss the assessment and recertification process, and the need to ensure that all faculty have access to the rubrics that will be used for core curriculum scoring. It is our hope that through presentations like this, early communication in the semester regarding recertification, and making ourselves available to answer questions as needed, that we'll be able to address some of these concerns. As for the nuts and bolts of the submission process, instructors of record will receive a Google Share request from OIE&E staff later in September with files for the relevant learning objectives. If a course is responsible for submitting artifacts for both critical thinking and social responsibility, each course section will contain a folder for each objective. For courses that are only responsible for critical thinking, there will be one folder labeled critical thinking in the section folder that you receive as an instructor. It is at that time that instructors may appoint a designee to submit artifacts on their behalf, whether that be a TA, department staff, whatever that might look like. You will respond to the email at that point to let our staff know who should be given access to your section level folder. When the time comes to submit artifacts, instructors or their designees should load one ungraded document file per student enrolled in the section for each of the relevant learning objectives. In other words, if there are 100 students enrolled in the course, each learning objective should contain 100 individual files representing each student enrolled in the section. There should be only one assignment included, but all 100 versions of that assignment submitted by students should have their own standalone file. Additional resources, such as instructions for exporting artifacts from the learning management system, will be made available at a later time and communicated to all instructors, as well as available at assessment.tamu.edu/core. We in the Office of Institutional Effectiveness and Evaluation recognize that these are extraordinary times and that this fall semester will present a very unique set of challenges that none of us have really had to deal with before. Please know that we are here to help in any way that we can to better facilitate this process for submitting assessment evidence for the core assessment process. You can always find information at assessment.tamu.edu/core, or you are able to email us at assessment@tamu.edu. Questions sent to assessment@tamu.edu will be responded to by either Dr. Baez or myself as soon as humanly possible. Please know that we are greatly appreciative of all of the work that you're doing to ensure that our students have a quality education and that we are able to proudly state that graduates of Texas A&M University have achieved the skills that we have said that they need to achieve.